According to records from the U.S. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement Agency, more than 40,000 immigrants have been deported from the U.S. since March, when the pandemic first began. But among those 40,000 plus deportees, the number of coronavirus cases is unknown. An investigation by the New York Times and the Marshall Project reveals an inside look at how unsafe conditions and scattershot testing helped turn the agency into a worldwide spreader of the virus. For more, the co-author of that article, Emily Kassie, joins me. She is Director of Visual Projects for the Marshall Project. Emily, welcome. Great to have you with us. So, as part of your research for this investigation, you spoke with more than 30 immigrant detainees about the ICE detention centers. What was the most troubling thing you heard from them?
So we spoke with detainees all over the country, from Texas to Louisiana to New Jersey and Philadelphia. And the most concerning thing was that these immigrants were not given protection, period. ICE was still detaining immigrants and bringing them into facilities. And then many of them would be tested and come up positive for the virus and would be deported just weeks later after that. And guards themselves weren't giving masks for quite a long period of time. That changed in some facilities later in the trajectory of the virus. But the protections were just not taken. And so this led to a number of immigrants being deported back to their home countries sick with the virus.
And then were the countries aware that these deportees were sick? Or did they not know? Or did the Trump administration have ways of pressuring the countries into taking these deportees regardless?
Yeah, so essentially what happened is that some countries took deportees quietly and would put them into quarantine camps and would test them, but would not report back whether they were sick with the virus. So that happened in El Salvador and Honduras. And in places like Guatemala, there was pushback. The Guatemalan president stopped these deportation flights from coming in, and in return, the Trump administration put out a memorandum in April threatening visa sanctions and cuts in humanitarian aid. And we're withholding ventilators and this kind of much-needed medical aid from Guatemala when they were not taking these flights, and so they had to resume deportation flights.
Interesting. And so, Emily, has ICE responded to any of your investigation's findings? And do you believe there will be any changes in the number of deportation flights? So
we went through every allegation that we had in this report with ICE. They confirmed with us the numbers of flights that we had been able to track. Those were accurate by ICE's count as well. And ICE just reiterated that it was doing its best to follow CDC standards, but they confirmed that they were not testing everybody before deporting them, that they were only able to test, a handful, a sampling of migrants before they're deported. And so in that sense, they have admitted that they have not been able to do thorough testing before they're sending immigrants back to these countries. But since the investigation came out, there hasn't been a decrease in deportation flights because this is, the administration's policy. They are wanting to continue their policy of deportations through the virus and through the pandemic.
And then did they indicate any changes into the way the migrants are being held in these centers? Are they trying to maintain some sort of social distance or isolating those who become sick, or, like you said, handing out PPE?
Well, the migrants held in these centers are in bunks and rooms in which there are 50, 60, 90 immigrants held in a room, and the beds are within a couple of feet apart from each other. So there is no effective way to socially distance in these facilities. A lot of them don't have outdoor spaces. And guards, until very recently, many of them were not even allowed to wear their own masks in the facility, let alone those provided by ICE. And so though the administration and ICE is saying that they're doing their best to take precautions in these facilities, that is just, it's not possible and it's not the case.
Well, that is very alarming. All right. Well, Emily, Kassie, thank you so much for sharing your reporting with us.
Thanks for having me.